This is FightFans Radio.
Happy Friday, everybody. Brand new episode, FanAddicts MMA show. Today is Friday, November the 16th, 2012, suckers. Oh, man, we are almost done with the year, which is a little scary.
The day before George St-Pierre returns, so long as he doesn't get hurt tonight.
Yes, so long as there is no freak injury between now and tomorrow night. We are primed and ready, I guess, for what will likely be the biggest pay-per-view of the year.
I don't know, primed. I'm ready for it. I don't know if primed is the right word for the GSP fight. I'm hoping he lost a step or two so it could be an exciting fight.
You know,
because if it's the old GSP, we're going to get 5-round wrestle fuck, which could be impressive, but it's a typical GSP. Not the most exciting, not the most fan-friendly style. You know, I hate saying that.
And you're right. He doesn't have the most fan-friendly style. Okay, real quick before we get down to the nitty-gritty, you can follow us on Twitter at FanAddicts MMA. You can follow FightFans Radio on at FightFans Radio. Wow, I just had a brain fart right there. That's what happens when you smoke in the afternoon. Also,
hey, don't give marijuana that name. It's now legal in Washington State and Colorado.
That's true.
So we're going to be moving headquarters of FightFans Radio out to one of those states very soon.
Very, very soon.
I think Erica and I will be out there, and Coey's probably going to stick around here.
Yeah, because he's a wet blanket. He's a real wet blanket.
Coey would not have been able to make it through Prohibition that well, but I think he can make it through Prohibition of marijuana just fine. Prohibition of alcohol, that would have been difficult for Jessica.
We are also on Stitcher Radio. You can download their app to your phone or to your mobile device if you're on the go and you want to listen to us live. We are live as well on Stitcher Radio, as well as on demand. If you missed an episode, you can always go back and listen to past episodes as David coughs the lung out. That's all good, man. All right. All right. A couple things we're going to talk about today. I think we're going to talk about a couple of injuries. Naturally, every episode we have at least one injury to talk about.
Well, maybe unnaturally when it comes to that.
We also have new matchups to talk about, and of course, tomorrow's UFC 154. We finally get to see interim welterweight champion Carlos Condit fight the reigning UFC welterweight champion coming back from almost 2 years of layoff, George St-Pierre. And David and I will give our uneducated...
As we like to call him here on FightFans Radio, George St. Christ.
Yes. He is the Lord Almighty. And we'll talk about who we're picking to win that fight. If you want to call in, feel free to, 410-988-6525. We also have a chat room up and ready to go on our website, FightFansRadio.com. You can click on today's episode of FanAddicts MMA Show with the clever headline, "Nothing's Going to Stop Me Now," which is a lyric from what 80s television show? If you can let us know, you win absolutely nothing, but you'll at least be in the know. And you can tweet us at FanAddicts MMA. All right. Let's talk injuries, my friend. Injuries.
Like, we're going to talk the guy that should retire?
The guy that should retire. And, of course, we were talking about Shane Carwin, who, funny enough, I've only seen maybe like 2.5 episodes of The Ultimate Fighter, but I did actually catch an episode where he's kind of bragging about how he's, yeah, sure, my knee is hurt. I don't care if Roy Nelson knows. I'm powering through it. and I'm still going to beat him. And then lo and behold, he has to pull out of the fight because it's way beyond repair, and he won't be able to make the fight. Um, I agree with you, David. I think it's time for Shane Carwin to hang up the old gloves. Do you
How many
think?
surgeries is this guy going to have and come back from? He's a, he's a somewhat young fighter, but he's not a young man.
Right. That's very true. And he's has he really made an impact on MMA, or will he be sorely missed if he should retire?
I can only think of his Brock Lesnar fight right now. That's about it. That's about as much impact as he made on me. He had a hard punch, knockout power. I mean,
Great wrestling that we never saw.
yeah, yeah. Reputedly a terrific wrestler, but he had some knockout power. There's some nice knockouts that I can't. All I can think of is Brock Lesnar's head and arm triangle and Shane Carwin, now having another season of Tough where you're going to have the coaches not fight. Not that it really matters. No one cares about this season at all.
No, negative people care about
Matt
this
Mitrione is the replacement. So Roy Nelson should win that fight. I mean, who really cares about that?
You know,
Roy Nelson should win. Not that Matt Mitrione doesn't have a chance, but Roy Nelson should win.
I'm hoping Roy Nelson does not win. That is my hope.
You know what I hope? Nothing.
Nothing.
I do not care. I like Roy Nelson, so I hope he wins. I also like Matt Mitrione. He did. But I really don't care about the fight. I mean, come on.
So, David kind of mumbled it, but Matt Mitrione will be replacing Shane Carwin in the headlining fight with Roy Nelson at the Tough 16 finale, which of course will take place in Vegas, but not at the Palms. And I really like Matt Mitrione. I think he's got enough personality. His grappling needs work, obviously, but I think he brings a lot to be seen in the cage. And I am not a Roy Nelson fan, so if anything, this season of The Ultimate Fighter, what little I did see, I'm seriously not a Roy Nelson fan.
I haven't seen one moment of the season.
Yeah, he's been a complete ass. So. Shane Carwin's been dull, and Roy Nelson, from what I understand, has been an ass.
That was entirely predictable. I mean, I said that on the air. I said, look, Shane Carwin is going to bore everyone. And it wasn't I didn't have to be Nostradamus for that.
No. You certainly did not.
Should have been foreseeable. But maybe it was the plan to get Ultimate Fighter off Fridays.
I don't know. I don't know. Roy Nelson, he's, from what I understand, fighting to be the worst coach in Tough history. That's what a lot of people are tweeting.
No way.
Ken
Shamrock, Rampage.
By far.
Really? Worse than Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was horrible. Dude, he was like trying to get them ready for a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, but I cannot imagine. Cannot fathom that Roy Nelson is worse than some of the coaches we've seen. Rampage didn't give a shit. He set up front, he didn't care.
Oh yeah, no, that's very true.
You sound distracted, Erica.
No,
Get off the chat.
I wasn't on the chat.
Right,
Son of a bitch.
You're doing something.
Rampage was a terrible coach, but I think he's a terrible person. So, that really shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody that he was a terrible coach. I think he's terribly self-centered and childish. And that's what we got. That's what we saw. I don't know if everybody expected that from Roy Nelson, though. I mean, I think everybody expected Roy Nelson and Dana White to not agree on a lot of things, but I don't know. Whatever you say, David. Whatever you say.
Thank you. That should be the response, by and large.
Whatever you say, David. Whatever you say. Another injury update. The matchup between Joe Lauzon and Gray Maynard is no longer happening because Gray Maynard also blew out his knee, just to use that term kind of colloquially. I don't know if it's actually blown out, but um, he is not fighting because of a knee injury. But he is being replaced by Jim Miller, which I actually think Jim Miller versus Joe Lauzon is a much more interesting fight.
Should be a more exciting fight.
Yeah, much more interesting. You don't think it's much more interesting?
Yeah, to me it is. I don't find Maynard that interesting. Unless he's fighting Frankie Edgar.
You know, it's funny. Maynard comes across as being a very dull guy sometimes, but he's apparently on a podcast with.
I think I told you about that. Mike Sawyer's. Yeah, he was on Tough Talk, and it was tremendous.
No. He's actually on a podcast with another fighter has a podcast that he does every week, and Gray Maynard gets on there hammered, and apparently he's very entertaining. I can't remember which fighter it is, though.
Okay, like I'm talking about a year ago or so, even 2 years ago. He was on a podcast called Tough Talk, and he was so good. It was really amazing that it doesn't come across, when he does his countdown shows.
Mac Danzig, that's what it is. Mac Danzig has a podcast now, and
the vegan.
Yes, the vegan, and
is that his nickname when he comes out? Is because I usually don't watch the ring entrances. Is it Mac, the vegan Danzig?
No, I don't even know if he has. Does he have a nickname?
I would.
I mean, his name is Mac Danzig. I don't think he needs a nickname. That's a very unusual name to begin with. Mac Danzig. No, I do not believe he has a moniker. It's just Mac Danzig. Well, I guess we're christening him the vegan.
That's what I refer to him as.
Mac the vegan Danzig. But I
and I usually go with my principle of if it's a physical contest, always if it's a physical contest between a carnivore and a vegetarian or a vegan, always go with the carnivore.
Fair enough. It's those proteins, baby.
It is.
What card are they supposed to be on? It's UFC 155, I believe, was the original event. Yes. So now Joe Lauzon will be facing Jim Miller at UFC 155, Dos Santos versus Velasquez. And to be honest with you, this card is the card that I'm looking forward to the most. Tomorrow's card is okay for the headliner and for the anticipation and the wait that we went through, but UFC 155 by far blows away.
UFC on Fox as well.
The main card, but UFC 155 is stacked from bottom to top. Whereas
I'm liking UFC on Fox too, and the price.
You're such a cheap bastard. How about you stop living up to stereotypes?
Yeah, we always got it.
Cheap bastard.
Cheap bastard. If this thing was like $5 or $10, I would find that perhaps appropriate, considering they want $55 per pay-per-view. I don't know how cheap you have to be not to pay it.
I think this card is definitely worth buying. UFC 155.
It is. I told you, I'm buying it.
Is worth buying. And the card, like I said, the card is stacked from top to bottom. You have Leonard Garcia versus Cody McKenzie. That should be a fun fight. Michael Johnson versus Miles Jury. Brad Pickett versus Eddie Wineland, Chris Lieben versus Carlos Famola, Alan Belcher versus Yushin Okami, Joe Lauzon versus Jim Miller, Tim Bosch versus Chris Weidman, Phil Davis versus Forrest Griffin, and then, of course, the championship fight, Junior Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez 2. I am going for Cain Velasquez in this fight. Go Cain, you scary son of a bitch. He really is. After that fight with Bigfoot, he just kind of scares me.
Oh, yeah. Bigfoot massacre.
Yeah, that was an absolute massacre.
Speaking of, it's a nice segue.
Is it? For
a Bigfoot ovary?
Oh, yes. And the squash match of 2013.
Yeah, right?
UFC 156, which a lot of people are implying that it's shaping up to be a super hot card. I don't know that it is. I don't know if I feel the same way. Am I crazy? Let me see. 156. There you go. This is the Super Bowl weekend card, which is traditionally pretty stacked. But there really aren't a whole lot of fights in there that are really tantalizing to me. It's headlined by Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar, which is exciting. I'm looking forward to
That's
that.
fucking good right there.
Alistair Overeem versus Antonio Bigfoot Silva, which should be just an absolute.
Interesting, though. Interesting. I mean, it should be a massacre, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, we thought that Travis Brown was going to massacre Bigfoot Silva too, and that didn't happen. So, you never know.
I mean, it's at least interesting.
Yes. Dan Henderson versus Lyoto Machida is rumored, but I don't know if that's happening or not.
You know what? If that happens, I'd call it a fairly, especially now, that's a stack card.
John Fitch versus Damian Maia, which we were going to talk about next. Rashad Evans versus Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. And then Eric Silva versus the ever-elusive TBA.
And TBA is tough. Though.
Yeah, TBA is a tough opponent.
I'm liking that card. I'm liking that card quite a bit because I like the main event a lot. And as much as I like that main event, you don't need to do that much more for me. And there seem like some interesting fights there.
Apparently they do in order to get you to buy the damn thing. They got to do a lot more.
I will buy that one. I'll buy the December one. Not buying tomorrow night's. Not for 2 fights. Only care about 2 fights.
To be honest with you, if they can make one more matchup, that I would definitely buy this card, and this would make it a stacked card for me, and that would be Josh Koscheck versus Nick Diaz.
I would have bought it. With that
if they can make that happen, then I'm there. But I don't know if they can. I don't know if his year suspension is quite up yet. I think it's a few more weeks in February before it's up, because I'm fairly certain he was suspended in February. So, who knows? I don't know when that is up. Let me see if the Wikipedia's got that stuff. When is this?
it should go back to his last fight.
Yeah, which was February something. It was February 4th. So it's 2 days. I don't know if they'd let that slide. Like, would they just say
No, I don't think they would.
No, I don't think they would either. Let me see. I don't see anything else that really addresses the suspension. But, you know, if they were able to work something out and get that fight happening, then I would agree that 156 is stacked. 156 is still a good card, don't get me wrong. But it's so far in the future right now, I'm scared to even get attached to it.
Yeah, for sure it could change. But, like, as it stands now, it's a pretty stacked card for these days.
Apparently, Uriah Faber mentioned that he would like to come back for this card. So that might, I don't know if that would make it stacked for me, but it would definitely make it a really interesting card at that point.
Short stack.
Short stack. Yeah, it'd be short stack. With his tiny ass. So John Fitch versus Damian Maia. I believe if Kohei was here, Kohei would be tooting his own horn. Although I feel like that was a logical matchup to make.
It's usually logical.
What are your thoughts on this matchup, David?
Oh, as we discussed, it's an interesting fight. I think Fitch will take down Maia and control him. I don't think Maia's going to be able to submit Fitch.
You don't think Maia's amazing jiu-jitsu can somehow overcome this powerful wrestler like they're going to try to make us believe?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I think Fitch's wrestling will win. Will win out, yeah.
No?
I'm a jiu-jitsu guy as well, but no, because I think I'm not saying Fitch is going to submit Damian, but it's different. All I'm saying is Fitch is not going to get submitted and will control the fight, and that's all he has to do.
True.
Is avoid getting submitted.
But if he wants that title shot, you start trying to finish people.
True there too. But you know what? If it stays standing, I favor Fitch.
I don't know. I feel like it's a toss-up if it remains standing. I don't think either guy's got really great stand-up.
Not great, but I think Fitch's is better. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Interesting fight. I'm thinking Fitch carries it.
That's the smart pick. I wouldn't mind seeing Damian Maia pull out a W in this. Especially if John Fitch tries to just ride this one out, then he deserves to get submitted and Damian Maia to get the W. So that's how I feel about that. What else we got? We got other shit too. What else we got, son?
Oh, yeah, not a lot today.
No, it really isn't. It was confirmed Ronda Rousey has officially signed with the UFC. We always thought that. But up until now, the UFC has kept pretty quiet about it, and Ronda Rousey has denied it. And apparently, Jim Rome's show, Dana White, confirms it. So we officially have women in the UFC now, even though
Yay!
Misha Tate was not very quiet about that or secretive. So, you know, it's great, and you know, I think we want the Cyborg fight, not immediately, but now Cyborg's.
I don't think we want to jump right in with male-female competition.
Cyborg's doctor, supposedly, allegedly,
Find the
said
doctor
that,
say anything.
Yes, has said that Cyborg cannot go to 135 for medical reasons. I'm guessing David's not buying it. I'm not buying it.
I don't buy it at all. I mean, maybe she can't drop down in crazy fashion, but I think if you take away the steroids, limit the weightlifting and diet, I have a feeling she can actually do it. Maybe not immediately, but I don't think, weight cut is one thing, but if she did a long-term dropping of weight, why not? Why does she need to be packed with so much muscle, and why would that threat? I'm not a doctor, so it's silly for me to even comment on it. Although I just have a feeling you can get a doctor to say anything. You get a marked doctor to say anything for an athlete.
That's true. That's very true.
It's going to threaten her future reproduction. I don't know if I buy it. If I do buy it, it's related to a weight cut, a drastic weight cut, and not, a long-term dropping of weight. If she wants to be relevant, she's going to have to fight Ronda Rousey. And
because there is no 145-pound division.
Will compromise.
It does not exist.
Match weight fight. But I really believe, especially, look, you just failed. You're a fucking poster girl for steroids, and you just failed the steroid test. You can't create the terms. You're not the champion. Ronda Rousey's the star. She's a bigger star than you right now. Cyborg never really proved to be a huge star, except she had the right matchup. Sort of like Rashad Evans. So Cyborg did huge when she was up against Gina Carano. The other Cyborg fights, though, people don't tune in. Ronda Rousey's becoming a star and has real star potential.
Yeah.
The ball's in her court. And if, Cyborg wants to go off to, what the hell's the name of the women's league?
Invicta.
Invicta?
Mm-hmm.
And go there, and let people stream her fights. Or otherwise, she has a chance to be in UFC if she goes to 135, because you're not going to have a 145-pound division. That's the way it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's what it is, plain and simple. There will be no 145-pound division, at least now, and I can't imagine.
Look, they're not going to cry if they can't make the fight. That's a fight that they'd like to make, and I think they'd want to put it on Fox. But you know what? If they don't make Rousey against Cyborg, they'll just make Rousey against Misha Tate too, and Rousey will look great there.
Yeah.
The Rousey against Sarah McMahon. It's going to be around the Rousey show. And you can have Cyborg in there, and that would make a great dynamic and would do really well. But you can maybe build someone else up to that level at some point too.
Well, and that's what
Cyborg
they need
never
to do.
became a big star.
They need to do right now is take the women's division as an exit strike force and make stars out of the girls that are there. No, I don't think any of them will be quite the Ronda Rousey, because they lack that shit talking persona that she has that has really kind of gotten her where she is. But they need to make more stars, because it cannot.
6-1-minute finishes. Don't underestimate that either.
They cannot have this women's division be the Ronda Rousey show. They cannot sustain that. They can't survive that. Because the instant that she loses,
she's going to be gone eventually. She'll retire someday. So
she'll lose.
And she'll lose.
She'll lose. I mean, let's be honest.
I don't know. I'm not so sure.
The instant she fights somebody who has really good takedown defense and knows how to fight from the outside, she will lose. Let's not gloss it over. Her stand-up needs work. And this rushing in thing seems to have worked so far, pretty well. But there will come a point where a fighter will know that that's what she's going to do, and they'll be prepared for it. So,
been up against women with good defense, takedown defense. Misha Tate in particular. Been up against incredible strikers. Sarah Kaufman.
How does Misha Tate have good takedown defense? That's a curious statement because I've seen her taken down pretty much in all the fights that I've seen her in. Marluce Kunin took her down. Julie Kedzie took her down. Ronda Rousey took her down. So where's the good takedown defense?
Okay. Who's the woman who's going to stop Ronda Rousey's takedown?
I don't know. I don't claim to know, but it would be
Or
ignorant
her
to
judo top.
it would be ignorant to think that there is nobody out there that can. And it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen with her next fight. I'm not even saying it's going to happen with the fight after that. She might go 10, 11, 12.
I don't think it's going to happen for years. I haven't seen someone that's going to do that. Whoever's going to do that's not professional mixed martial artist, female mixed martial artist right now.
Have you watched any of the Invicta?
Although, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I haven't watched enough to say for sure. But what I've seen on Strikeforce.
I mean, Strikeforce has a very, very limited roster. We're seeing that there are more and more women that are going into MMA.
Fair enough.
We're due for a surge of really professional, athletic.
Have you seen someone that you would say, "Oh, I want to see this woman up against Ronda Rousey because I think she's going to be able to stop her"?
What about the chick that won the gold medal in judo? I mean, they were talking about her, and she said not this go around, but she wants to do the Olympics one more time, and then she's going to try and do MMA. So that doesn't mean that she'll.
But she's not a professional. She's not a mixed martial artist right now.
No, I mean, but would you?
You haven't seen someone in Invicta or anywhere else where you're like, "Oh, this person's going to stop Ronda Rousey, keep her on the feet, and fuck her up," which could happen if you keep it on the feet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think once somebody keeps it on the feet, that they'll be able to at least draw it out a little bit longer. Before Rousey starts.
I mean, she's just got
frantically
that
going for
sick judo. I don't know. I don't see many men stopping her. I gotta tell you.
David, you are drinking the Ronda Rousey Kool-Aid.
I'm exaggerating slightly, but she's got vicious judo throws. Yeah.
I mean, but how often? Like, let's not get fantasized by the fact that. She's a woman and she's probably the most popular female fighter right now, except for probably, Gina Carano, who was never quite that good. She was just really cute. But we've seen it so many times in the men's divisions. Fighter A has this amazing ability, and I don't see anybody beating him. Oh, Fighter A
but the men's
lost.
divisions are deeper.
That's true, but they're
deeper. They're more well-rounded mixed martial artists.
But that's the point.
I enjoy women's mixed martial arts.
Once more well-rounded mixed martial, female mixed martial artists get in here, that's not going to apply anymore. And
yes,
I think we're right on
all
the cusp
I'm saying
of
is that they're not there yet.
I don't know. I think they're a lot closer than probably you give them credit for. But, I think we would both have to go back and really study some footage from... I think Invicta would probably be the best sample test pool of female fighters. I don't know. If anybody out there knows a female fighter that I'm not aware of. I think Liz Carmouche is a really talented fighter. I'd like to see her fight Ronda Rousey. Do I think she could beat her? I don't think so. But it'd still be an interesting test for her because Liz Carmouche is a very, very tough opponent. All right. So tomorrow's fight card. Tomorrow, UFC 154.
We're going to discuss this whole thing because I don't know. I'm only aware of the top two fights. And I know Costa's on the fight too. Philippou.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Konstantinos Philippou. I actually really like this card. On second, going back and looking at the card, I actually kind of like it. It's got Steven Seiler on there. It's got Ivan Menjivar on there. I'm a real big fan of John McGuire. I'm liking the Patrick Cote versus Alessio Sakara fight in that I'm looking forward to Patrick Cote demolishing Alessio Sakara. The Mark Bocek and Rafael Dos Anjos fight might be interesting. The main card starts off Mark Hominick versus Pablo Garza. I have no idea how Mark Hominick manages to still end up on the main card. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, if I'm not mistaken. Pablo Garza is very long, very skinny, and great jiu-jitsu. I think he may be able to catch Mark Hominick in something, and I think that'll be the end of Mark Hominick in the UFC. I don't know why they've been sticking with him for so long. His loss to Jose Aldo, to the Korean Zombie, and to Eddie Yeagan. That's 3 losses in a row for him. So Pablo Garza, I think, is going to be a tough opponent for him. I think Garza is also he's riding a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Dustin Poirier, and then he lost to Dennis Bermudez via unanimous decision at the last Fox card. So. Both of these guys, I think, will be fighting for their jobs tomorrow night. I just see Garza submitting Hominick in this fight. He's a tough kid, he's long and lanky, and I think Hominick's going to have problems with that. Konstantinos Philippou versus Nick Ring. That is kind of an I don't care fight. I have no idea how that one ended up on the main card either. But I'm not a Philippou fan, so I'm going with Nick Ring, even though I think Philippou is going to win. Tom Lawler versus Francis Carmon. I think Carmon is a beast. I mean, this is a big Cookie Monster sounding black dude, and Tom Lawler is a tough SOB, but I think Carmon's wrestling is going to be a bit much for him, and possibly his submission game might be a bit much for him. Carmon he's still a really young fighter. He has a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to pick up before we start talking about him facing the top of the division. But he's shown some growth in his game. He hasn't lost in the UFC yet. This will be his 4th fight in the UFC. He beat Chris Camozzi, some dude named Magnus, who I think is probably not in the UFC anymore, and he beat Carlos Romola. I do expect Francis Carmon to win this one. They probably made this matchup because Tom Lawler is he's a good face. People recognize him. People like him. People will watch the fight for Tom Lawler, or those French Canadian fans will be watching to see Francis Carmon pull this one off. That's if I had to pick somebody, I'm picking Carmon, but you never know. Tom Lawler, he is a tough SOB, so who knows? So here's the fights that David actually gives a shit about. Johnny Hendricks versus Martin Kampmann.
Interesting fight.
Martin Kampmann, he eats a lot of punches, man, but somehow he manages to always pull it through.
Yeah, Hendricks, you better not be eating too many Hendricks' punches up.
Hendricks, he's gotten a little romanticized by his own power, and we saw that, I think, in the Koscheck fight. Really swinging for the fences. I think Kampmann is better on the feet. He doesn't have the power that Hendricks has, but definitely technique-wise, he's better on the feet.
Hendricks has got to get Hendricks wrestling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Kampmann, we saw Kampmann give Jake Shields problems. In terms of, Shields would take him down, and then Kampmann would get back up. So, I don't know. Do you think Johnny Hendricks will be able to hold Kampmann down?
This is such a tough fight to call, but I am going to go with Hendricks. In either wrestling or, Kampmann, as you said, gets hit. And true, maybe some of the Hendricks knockout power myth was romanticized a bit, but I think he does. He obviously has knockout power, so when he gets John Pitch. And
I don't think
if Kampmann gets hit a few times, it's not going to be good for him.
I think the problem is not necessarily that other people have fallen in love with Johnny Hendricks' knockout style, but that Johnny Hendricks has fallen in love with it. And let's be honest, he knocked out Jake Ellenberger and
Fitch.
Hold on a second.
Who else has knocked out Fitch?
Sorry, I'm I am looking at the wrong Wikipedia page. So he's knocked out. He knocked out Fitch, and he has 2 KOs on his record, and one is to a Spencer Cowley from 2007. So he hits hard. Don't get me wrong, he hits hard, but he's got a few TKOs, a lot of decisions. I'm not saying that he'll lose this fight, but I have faith in Campman's ability to somehow pull bullshit out of his ass and win this fight. Yes.
It's a close fight.
He obviously has a mean guillotine. I think Thiago Alves will testify to that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this fight comes out. I think you're right that Johnny Hendricks, with his wrestling alone, I think he has the ability to beat Martin Kampmann, but Martin Kampmann is such an unknown commodity. You never know which Martin Kampmann is going to come into the cage. I feel like these guys are both fighting for, Dana White says #1 contenders match. That's bullshit. He's just saying that to sell a card. But these guys could quite possibly be that close. And Martin Kampmann, he has struggled to get to the top of this division, and this is his opportunity. So if he really wants to be in the top of this division, the very tippy top of this division, and wants to be considered for a potential future title match between the winner of George St-Pierre and Carlos Condit, then he needs to win, and he needs to win impressively, I think. And I would like to see Campman Condit too. So, now I'm distracted. It was a split decision for Campman. I was just trying to figure out if it was a unanimous decision or a split decision. But he did hand Carlos Condit a loss in the UFC. So I would really like to see that fight. I don't know if it would sell pay-per-views. It would have to be coupled with, I think, with another title fight. If Carlos Condit manages to win tomorrow night, I think that will be the future of the welterweight title, at least, until a rematch with George St-Pierre, should he lose. But let's talk about the main event. Carlos Condit versus George St-Pierre. Who are you picking and why?
This is a tough one to call. If it's George St-Pierre, the same George St-Pierre that we saw a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, then I think George St-Pierre will win a 5-round decision. I don't think he'll finish Carlos Condit. If he's lost a step, if that knee, if that knee is not what it was, and his shot is not what it was, if it remains standing, the chances for Carlos Condit increase greatly. And if the fight is to end, if it does not go 5 rounds, I only see it ending one way, and that's with Carlos winning. I don't see George St-Pierre finishing him. Like I said, I could see George St-Pierre wrestle fucking Carlos Condit for 5 rounds if he's the same George St-Pierre. And that's not, like we discussed earlier, that's not fan friendly. But I'm hoping that George St-Pierre has lost a step, because I think we'll be in for a more exciting fight if that's the case.
Yeah, and I fully expect Carlos Condit to go for that knee. I mean, I don't know whether it's sportsmanlike or not. Wouldn't it be stupid not to go for that knee?
Sweep the knee.
Yeah.
It was Karate Kid.
Wouldn't it be stupid for him to not go for the knee?
Of course.
So I fully expect him to do that. How is that going to mess with St-Pierre in his head? Who knows?
And George St-Pierre's head is always questionable. I think he's such a talented guy, he doesn't get tested to the extent necessary. But I don't know. I think George St-Pierre can be broken mentally.
Yeah, I agree. I really think that if we're going to see George St-Pierre break mentally, this is the fight to do it. I think
it can happen.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that strong mentally. I think he's just so incredibly talented. He never really gets put into those deep waters.
So I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm picking Carlos Condit to win.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, wow. That's right. That's right. We're awesome. We're picking Carlos Condit to win. Now, come tomorrow night, we may both.
Yeah, it may look ridiculous.
We may, But you know what? I don't think we'll look ridiculous. I don't think it's a bad pick. I don't think it's a bad pick at
No,
all.
no, because you know what? There are the unknown variables. I've been hearing, and I haven't been watching primetime, I've been hearing how good George St-Pierre has looked in primetime in the footage, and that his knee looks fine. He looks like he's just what he was. But I don't know if I trust that.
Okay.
And he hasn't been in the cage for a year and a half, and we always hear about cage rust being a real thing. That's a long, long time. And George St-Pierre is a real special athlete, and maybe he's going to go in there and do exactly what he's done in the past and bore me for 25 minutes. But hopefully
God,
not.
I hope not. I really hope not. Really, really hope not.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like that would really just kind of ruin the card for me. I mean, on multiple levels. I really.
Do you think there's a theory I'm going to toss out there? I was hearing that there doesn't seem to be that much buzz surrounding this as you would think there should be for George St-Pierre return. You think that has something to do, it could have something to do with just he doesn't really have exciting fights and it's hard to really be pumped for his return?
Yeah. Although I feel like the buzz is still there. I mean, despite people feeling like that, I think people recognize that.
It's there, but it's not there to the extent you might anticipate.
I don't know if I agree with that. Well, I mean,
I feel like it's there, but it's not quite there.
I mean, I know you're not on Twitter, but the buzz is definitely up on Twitter for sure. Lots of people tweeting about they're excited about this fight. It's been getting lots of coverage. The event is almost sold out. I mean, I think people are excited about the fact that George St-Pierre is coming back and that he has a legitimate challenger. That, the last few fights that George St-Pierre had, they had to try and convince us that the person he was facing was a dangerous opponent. But they don't have to convince us of that with the Carlos Condit. We know Carlos Condit is a dangerous opponent. We saw what he did against Nick Diaz, being able to be a smart fighter. We saw what he was able to do against other guys, being able to dismantle them quickly. Dan Hardy, who George St-Pierre took to a decision, and Carlos Condit knocked him out in the first round. So, maybe it's not fair to compare opponents, the common opponents, but that's the only thing we have really to go on right now, and I think that's part of why people are really excited about it. They're excited. It may suck, but people will come out in droves to see you fail. They will literally come out in droves to see you fail, and I think a lot of people are coming out here to watch him fail. And I think there's an equal number of people who are coming just because they love George St-Pierre. He's such a beloved fighter with the personality of a pen cap. But I'm fairly certain this is going to be a big. I think it'll be a big card. Well, what is your pay-per-view buy prediction then, David? Based off of how you feel about it, what do you think it'll come out as?
Based on how I feel and how pay-per-views have been doing lately, 600,000.
Oh wow, that is awfully low. 600,000. That's what you think?
600 to 700,000. Yeah.
Wow, that was.
And I think it's going to be closer to 6. Maybe I'm totally misjudging what's going on here.
Well, let's look.
That's still a very good number in what's going on right now. Like even John Jones's last fight didn't do that well, and it was on short notice. And this is George St-Pierre's return. It's going to do really well in Canada.
2012, the highest grossing pay-per-view was Silva Sonnen 2 at just under 1 million pay-per-view buys.
I don't sense this doing Silva Sonnen 2 numbers.
I'm going to say it's going to do about 800. I'm going to say 800 to 900,000 pay-per-view buys. That's my guess. That's our guess. So David's going 600. I'm going 8 to 9. George St-Pierre's return. George St-Pierre traditionally does really well. I mean, I don't think he's really had a bad pay-per-view even despite him being boring, he still has fairly decent pay-per-view numbers.
You know what? 700.
Rude. 900.
700,000.
I'm bumping mine up straight up to 900. Not 800 to 900, just 900.
I'm not going to 8. No, like I said, I said 6 to 7. 6 might be a little low.
All right.
We'll see what's going on with UFC.
Yeah.
I'm taking into account that, and except for Silva Sonnen, I just don't think you've seen anything really doing that well. Like, I wonder how much more of a draw he is than John Jones right now.
Who?
George St-Pierre.
George St-Pierre? I think he's a much bigger draw than Jones right now.
Because of Canada?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
the Canada thing is the one reason why I'm. What are the percentage of buys that usually come from Canada for a George St-Pierre show? Like,
does Canada do pay-per-view, or is pay-per-view just a?
Is it just North America? Is Canada okay? Like, you know what? If this is just United States of America, I think 600,000 is about right.
Yeah, I guess they do pay-per-view in Canada.
Yeah, I think pay-per-view includes Canada.
Yeah, that's North America thing.
George St-Pierre's numbers come big from Canada, so
yeah,
maybe underestimating what it's going to do. I don't think it's going to do. Let me put it this way: I don't think the numbers in the United States will be that much more than what John Jones
does. Okay. All right, fair enough. No, I'm sticking with 900 thou. I think he'll do 900 fairly easily. A comeback fight, he hasn't been fought in 2 years. And facing an opponent that people can actually buy into as defeating him. So yeah, why not? Yeah, 900.
Right.
I don't think there's anything else. I mean, I think we are just about done. Bellator tonight. Ultimate Fighter. If you hate yourself, some people hate themselves, David. We have to service those people too. We need to keep our suicidal listeners. What else? I think that's really it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at FanAddicts MMA. Follow FightFans Radio on Twitter at FightFans Radio. Check out the website, FightFansRadio.com. And don't forget to download the Stitcher Radio app. You can listen to the shows live as well as on demand, should you happen to miss an episode. I missed Kohi. I missed our little buddy.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a little pissy with him right now. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, David, but the whole meeting at Bailey's for tomorrow night was his idea. Like, he brought it up.
Is he not going tomorrow night?
No, he said he's not going. But he didn't tell me. He told Gracie, who I invited. I was like, hey, we're going up to Bailey's. And she was like, yeah, I'll go. And then she was like, Kohi told me he's not going. You fucker. Mm-hmm. Kohi, you are officially a fucker. And, a
fucker of mothers.
Yes. Yes, you are a motherfucker. You are a bastard. I don't like you. I miss you.
That's right. Your parents were not married.
Anything else, David, before we close out the show?
I don't think so.
We are good. It was a short show. Well, we'll have plenty to talk about next week with the results of tomorrow night's fights, and I'm going to watch Bellator tonight because I actually really like Bellator now. I am a Bellator fan. Yeah.
They have like 3 or 4 altogether.
Yeah, I think once they get on Spike, man, it's going to be. I think it's going to be crazy. I think their ratings.
Crazy is a word.
I think the ratings are going to go way up. They're going to get what the UFC used to get on there. I think. I think their format is exciting enough. Although you can't be married to the fighters themselves. You have to be married to the format because it doesn't allow for both. It's either or. But I expect it to blow up. Blow up, son. Boom.
I think it'll blow up.
I'm waiting for a smart ass like.
Oh no, I may have a different interpretation of what blow up means. I certainly anticipate they're blowing up at some point.
You're expecting some sort of explosion, but
Yes, I am. A blow up, for sure.
all right, guys. We'll be back next Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully, we'll have Kohi back. I feel like we're missing our little buddy,
The anchor.
our little drunk buddy. We're missing out on him. So we'll talk to you guys next week. Oh yeah, visit FightFansRadio.com to help us get Derek Sabotiki from the Untethered MMA podcast. They're going to be celebrating their 1 year at the end of December, and the guys all are going to be in Chicago. Well, at least Mike Fagan lives there. Matt Roth is going to be there for the Fox card, and we're trying to get some cash together to help send Sabotiki there. So visit the website, FightFansRadio.com, and you'll see a widget on the sidebar to help us raise a couple of dollars. It's not a whole lot of money. Even if you can only part with $1 or $2, that'll help. Every little bit counts. And send this bastard to Chicago and see what kind of craziness ensues when all three of them are in the same room. I think it's going to be weird.
He's a child of unmarried parents as well.
I don't think so. His mom's kind of hot, though.
Really?
He's going to be pissed at me because that I mentioned this. But yeah, I saw his mom commented on his Facebook status, and I was like, yo, Derek, your mom's kind of hot. He was like, fuck, everybody says that. I'm like, because she's kind of hot. I'm just saying. She's a little milfy, son. Don't be mad at us for noticing it. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.